can't remember how many times I've had this dream, but the fear and helplessness still make my heart ache. That's right, I'm terrified, absolutely haunted by spiders. As a child, I lived on my dad's insect farm, surrounded by spiders. The fear nearly gave me a fatal heart attack, leading my parents to divorce. Now, I live with my mum. My graduation is soon, but Dad didn't reply to my invitation. His last email, 2 weeks ago, proudly announced his success with mutant spider research. I have a bad feeling something went wrong with my dad's research. I've decided to go to his farm and make sure he's safe. It's been almost 10 years since I last set foot in this house. The house was pitch dark, damp, and eerily silent, with only my voice echoing as I cautiously called out, "Dad!" There was just one place left to check. Taking a deep breath, I tried to suppress my fear and turned the doorknob. Suddenly, a swarm of black spiders scurried out from behind the door. My body froze, trembling as I collapsed to the floor. At that moment, someone stepped out of the basement. It was my dad, George, the biologist, silently blowing a strange flute that sent the spiders retreating into the basement. Dad helped me up, his frail hand pale with black veins and dark, sharp hairs like a spider's bristles. Something was definitely wrong with him.
Why are you here, Jax?
I handed him the invitation card. He took it without a word, his cold demeanor cutting deep. Then I noticed something stuck on his eye. Instinctively, I reached out to remove it. It was a strand of spider silk, not something accidentally caught in his eye, but something coming from inside it. Dad jerked back, clearly annoyed by my actions, and rubbed his eye. The strand of silk disappeared without a trace. "Dad, my car broke down. Can I stay here for the night?"
Fine. But stay in your room. Don't wander around.
Seeing Dad's odd behavior, I knew something was wrong, likely because of the spiders. I made an excuse to stay and find out. As a meticulous researcher, I figured Dad would have recorded his entire experiment. I was right. Taking a deep breath, I opened the first folder. Skipping the confusing reports, I clicked on the first video, and it terrified me. The clip showed a female spider carrying an enormous egg sac. The spider screamed in pain, like a woman about to give birth. But spiders lay eggs, don't they? My suspicions were quickly confirmed. I watched as a massive baby spider broke out of the egg, dragging its mother's insides with it. The hungry spider rushed to its first meal, while the mother lay weak, helpless, and still as her young devoured her. It was so cold-blooded, so cruel. It was more disgusting than any spider or monster I had ever imagined. It took me a moment to regain my composure. I opened the final video, but what I saw was even worse. I was sure this spider was no longer a normal creature. Thinking about how this mutated spider had been born, I feared for my dad. What would happen when those eggs hatched? Suddenly, my dad appeared in front of me, his face furious.
Jax! What are you doing here?
I forced down my fear and rushed to tear off his shirt, hoping what I had seen was just a scene from a sci-fi movie. But I was wrong. These spiders were more dangerous than I had imagined. Each egg was stuck to my dad's skin, with a tiny tentacle piercing his spine. They were living and growing off his spinal fluid. The fear in my chest grew stronger, and I felt dizzy, my hands and legs trembling uncontrollably. Looking up at my dad, I noticed his eyes were slowly turning into those of a spider. I heard him gasp and scream at me.
Run! Get out of here!
He still had his mind. He still cared for me. I had to save him. Telling myself that, I grabbed a ruler from the desk and rushed toward him. I shoved him to the ground, using all my strength to crush the eggs on his back. One by one, they cracked open and the baby spiders fell, filling the air with the scent of blood and a foul odor. Suddenly, my dad erupted with strength. He shoved me off, screaming,
Don't hurt my children!
"You've lost it, Dad! I'm your son! I'll save you from these monsters!" I yelled, only to realize, in shock, that the man in front of me was no longer the dad I knew. He had fully transformed into a monster. He shielded the baby spiders like a true mother spider, glaring at me as though I were an enemy trying to harm his offspring. The look in his eyes caused me pain and despair. What could I do to save him? But it was too late. The monster, now enormous and with all the terrifying traits of a spider, stood before me. My body froze, even breathing felt difficult, and my heart began to ache again. My dad's agonizing scream jolted me back. I turned to see the newborn spiders, driven by instinct, making him their first meal. Survival instinct drove me to run. I tried to drag my dad with me, but it was already too late.
It all started with a single cat. Jason had found it one evening, this tiny, shivering ball of fur, abandoned near a park bench. He begged me to let him keep it.
"It's just one cat, Liv,"
he said, his eyes pleading.
"Look at it, it needs me."
I hesitated, but eventually gave in. One cat wouldn't hurt, right? It was cute after all, and Jason had always had a soft spot for animals. But that's where it began, and it didn't end there. A week later, Jason brought home 5 more cats. 5! The apartment, which had once been cozy and clean, now smelled of litter boxes and fur. The cats scratched the furniture, knocked things off shelves, and left hairballs in the corners. It wasn't even about the mess anymore. It was about how out of control things were getting. I tried to talk to him. "Jason, this is too much! We don't have room for all these cats!" He just shrugged, grinning like it was no big deal.
"They're rescues. They need me. Who else is going to take care of them?"
I let it go again, feeling guilty for wanting to say no, but deep down something about it all felt wrong. And soon enough, it got worse. One night, I came home late from work. I stepped into the apartment and immediately noticed something was off. The air felt heavier, the smell stronger than usual. And then I saw it. A large metal cage in the middle of the living room. Inside were rats, dozens of them, squeaking and scratching at the bars, their tiny bodies wriggling over each other. Jason was kneeling by the cage, tossing in old bread, like he was feeding birds at the park. I froze, my heart pounding. "What the hell is this?" He didn't even look up.
They were going to be used for experiments. I couldn't let that happen.
My stomach twisted. "Jason, this is insane! Rats! You can't bring rats into the apartment!"
"They need me,"
he said softly, his eyes finally meeting mine. They were wide, almost desperate.
"No one else cares about them, Liv. You don't understand."
I didn't know what to say. He always made me feel like I was the selfish one, like I was heartless for not wanting to live in a zoo. But this was too much. Soon it wasn't just rats. The apartment became a nightmare. Cages, aquariums, scratching posts. Every inch of space filled with something alive. Birds squawked from their cages in the kitchen. Hamsters ran on wheels in the bathroom. I couldn't take it anymore. But Jason? He was lost in it. He barely even noticed me anymore. He spent all his time caring for the animals, talking to them like they were his only family. I tried to talk, to make him see reason, but it was like speaking to a wall. And then he brought home the dog. It wasn't just any dog. It was a huge, wild-looking mutt with matted fur and eyes that gleamed with something I couldn't place. The moment I saw it, I felt a cold fear creep up my spine. It looked dangerous, rabid even. "What are you doing, Jason?" I asked, backing away from the snarling dog. That thing could kill us!
Hey, it's okay. He's fine.
Jason said, reaching down to pet the dog's head. It snapped at his hand, but he didn't flinch.
He's just scared. He'll calm down once he gets used to us.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. No! This is it! You can't keep bringing wild animals into the house. We're done. But he just looked at me, that same pleading look he always used.
He needs me, Liv. No one else would take him.
That night, I couldn't sleep. The noise was constant. The birds flapping, the rats scratching, the cats knocking things over. And then I heard it. The soft creak of a cage door opening. My heart stopped. I sat up in bed, straining to hear. There it was again, scratching, scurrying. The rats. They were out. I shook Jason awake, panic rising in my chest. Jason, the rats! He groaned and sat up, rubbing his eyes.
Relax, Liv. I'll get them back in the cage.
I jumped out of bed, my skin crawling at the thought of those tiny creatures running loose. I grabbed my things and made a decision. Jason didn't argue. He just nodded, too tired to care. He was already trying to catch the escaped rats. I grabbed my bag and headed for the door, but as I reached the hallway, I froze. The dog was standing there, blocking the exit. Its eyes gleamed in the dim light and its lips curled back, revealing sharp yellowed teeth. A low growl rumbled from its throat. Jason! I called, my voice trembling. Get the dog, now! But he was too busy with the rats to hear me. The dog's growl grew louder, its muscles tensing. I took a step back, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew what was coming. I screamed, diving to the side just as it snapped at where I'd been standing. Jason came running, throwing himself between me and the dog. The dog sank its teeth into Jason's hand and wouldn't let go. Jason screamed in pain, telling me to run. Through gritted teeth, he said,
I'm sorry, Liv.
I didn't need to be told twice. I bolted for the door, my legs trembling beneath me. My hands shook as I dialed 911. When the operator picked up, I could barely get the words out. Help! Please! He's keeping animals. Too many. It's dangerous. I never went back. I didn't want to know what happened after I left. Everything was so exhausted. For many people, having to care for an adult baby is a burden. But for a single mother cast out by society like me, my son is everything. Taking care of him and expressing my motherhood rights is the only thing that brings balance to my humble life. My life is a mess, lived under the oppression of others. More than once I've thought about ending my life. When little Kevin appeared, nestled in my arms with his black eyes looking up at me so trustingly, I found meaning and a purpose for my life. I am a mother, and this child is entirely mine. Since Kevin came into my life, everything has brightened. I can do anything to give him the best life possible. But as Kevin grew older, the bond between us began to fade. He grew up healthy and capable, becoming my pride. Yet the feeling that he was slipping out of my control left me feeling unhappy. Sometimes I wished Kevin could go back to those days when he was still small. Then those fleeting thoughts suddenly became reality when Kevin fell severely ill, losing his ability to care for himself. I knew this was the time he needed me the most. It was as if I were reliving the days when Kevin was a small child. Every day I fed him, played with him, and helped him with his hygiene. Kevin struggled to digest food, so I gave him formula. After noticing how difficult it was to clean Kevin when he wore regular pants, I suddenly thought of dressing him in a bodysuit, just like when he was a baby. That outfit turned out to be incredibly practical, and it suited Kevin perfectly. Kevin would often hurt himself trying to roll off the bed. I suddenly thought that I should create a softer, warmer and safer space for him, like a crib. Kevin, with his legs gradually withering away, obediently sat still in the crib. That gave me an unusual sense of satisfaction. Lately, Kevin had been very well behaved, so over the weekend, I decided to take him outside as a reward. But all that good behavior he'd shown me was just a scheme. The raspy sound of Kevin's voice calling out for help to the police sent me into a panic.
Why do you have such a large stroller?
Kevin was pleading for help from someone other than me. He was trying to escape from my love. Officer, it's just a misunderstanding, I explained calmly. You see, my son's mental state is a bit unstable, and his legs are also not convenient for moving. The officer glanced disdainfully at Kevin, a look that unsettled me, but I knew I had achieved my goal. No one would believe Kevin now. Not even me. And Kevin would pay the price for his deceit. Once we got home, Kevin and I had a heated argument. It turned out that he had been quietly rebelling against me all along. Kevin pointed at his twisted leg, angrily accusing me of ruining his life.
Mom, you've destroyed everything for me!
I did everything for you because you tried to abandon me. My world consisted only of me and Kevin. So when Kevin said he wanted to move out to study in another state, I vehemently opposed it. Yet, Kevin remained determined to leave me. I would never accept any act of rebellion from my only son. I would do whatever it takes to keep Kevin by my side, even if it meant resorting to the most extreme measures.
I hate you! You're crazy!
My goal had been achieved. Kevin was staying with me, so I was willing to overlook some of his rebellious moments.
Stay away from me!
But things had gone too far. I felt that there was no longer any common ground between Kevin and me. So I decided to turn Kevin into a real child, one who only knew how to eat, sleep and play with his mother, who would cry for food, not speak, and not resist. Kevin lay on the bed, his fearful gaze breaking my heart. But above all, he had to pay for the times he had shattered my mother's heart. Don't be scared, my love. Just bear the pain for a little while, I said softly. The only way for us to find harmony was for one of us to remain silent forever. From now on, Kevin would be a child, and I would care for him eternally. From that day on, my son and I could finally live in harmony. I could feel Kevin becoming more dependent on me. He started sleeping more, just like a real child. From now on, we could be together forever.